time for Dave 101.
Well, yesterday we actually found out that our good friend in Ottawa, Member of Parliament Larry Maguire, who's from the province of Manitoba, actually decided to ask about UFOs on camera during a committee meeting on natural resources. His question was to the deputy minister, a gentleman by the name of John Hannaford, basically saying, we have had reports of 3 drones or unidentified aerial phenomena being seen hovering over Canada's nuclear facilities. What do we know about this? Is our security safe? Now, as you know, I've been talking about Canada's role in ufology for the last couple of years. And look, for our American audience, this may not be, top of the line information because you guys got a lot of woo down there. But up here, it's been a silent topic. The question is, will it take off? Now, I know myself and Daniel Otis, the freelance journalist who broke this story yesterday, literally have been working on this together for a while. All right. I was able to proudly give Daniel the in that he needed to get some stories from the inside from some of my sources within Canada's capital of Ottawa. And together, we've been pursuing a lot of information and sharing information, most of it privately, because at this point of the game, we got to figure out who the players are, what is happening, why is it happening, but most of all, why has it been so silent? Now, I've got an opportunity to talk to my sources in Ottawa. I got an opportunity today to talk again with Daniel Otis, and we're pretty happy over what went on. We're very happy. So the big thing is this. Why does it mean so much? Well, there are a number of reasons. Canada has a long history of being involved in the UFO field. Okay, this goes back to a gentleman named Wilbur Smith back in the 50s and 60s, whom the American government would actually call on to give UFO information to their own spooks. Now, there are a bunch of different projects, a bunch of top secret events that have happened since then. Everything from Project Blue Book to Project Sign to Project everything. But where is Project Dammit Canada? Get off your asses and get into the UFO game. This is what MP Larry Maguire has done. Now, there are a couple of obstacles that need to go over here. Number one, will he continue the pressure of talking about unidentified aerial phenomena, not only in committee meetings, but around Ottawa as well, namely question period during House of Commons sittings? This is where it would make the most impact. Let us hope he does. Number two, will the Canadian media catch on? And I can tell you right now, as I predicted yesterday with Victor Vigiani, so far, the Canadian media has not caught on to what he asked. Has not deemed it important enough if they've seen it at all, which I highly think I doubt they have. Why? Because, let's face it, the Canadian media is not watching some sort of standing committee meeting over nuclear facilities. However, where they may be able to pay attention now is because of what's happening in Ukraine, where the Russians seem to be firing their rockets into a nuclear energy facility, where if it blows up, it would be more disastrous than Chernobyl itself back in 1986. That's just what this world needs. So are the aliens now hovering over nuclear facilities in Canada? We have to find out. This would probably be rated under high security, and any findings probably would be hidden from the public at this time due to national security. Look, it's an ugly world out there. We don't know if it is aliens or if it is the Germans, the Chinese, the Iraqis, the Afghanis, I don't know, pick a country. Russia, China, Japan, North Korea? Who knows? But what we do know is that it's happening. And what we do know is the door has been opened. Now, we know this is going to be a fight getting this into the mainstream. We really do. Spaced Out Radio is pseudo mainstream, being on 6 terrestrial radio stations, but only one in Canada at Saga 960 AM in Mississauga, Ontario, which is by Toronto, about 30 minutes and a couple hours from Ottawa. We also know that Daniel Otis, the freelance writer who broke the story, will literally, continue his press. And now that he's working 3 days a week for the Canadian Television Corporation, CTV, it might be able to get some legs. People are starting to trust his word. So we now have to keep up the pressure. The rest of the media in this country is not. So it's up to us. And trust me, it's a fun war. All right? I can tell you right now. I texted with Lou Elizondo yesterday regarding what Larry McGuire had stated. And Elizondo responded to me with this. He says, I have a good update for you regarding this. Do I know what it is yet? No, he hasn't responded. I'm sitting on bated breath here. Bated breath. Waiting. Fingers crossed. Waiting that it is something good. Something juicy. But the other thing that this does too is it also establishes Canada's role in NORAD with UAP. Recently, due to breaking news right here on Spaced Out Radio, we found out that members of the Scientific Coalition of UAP Studies, along with Hal Puthoff, met with members of Parliament in Canada to try and find out what is Canada's role exactly with this. Perfect. It needed to happen. Now, I don't know for a fact, but by Elizondo's text to me, I would say there's a good chance that maybe he's met with Canadian officials. I would say there's a good chance that maybe Chris Mellon has as well, but we just haven't heard about it. The fact that Canada is getting interested in this subject is good. It's good for the citizens. It's good for the media if they ever get their heads out of their butts to cover this subject. And it is good for everybody in the United States who's been putting pressure on the U.S. to bring this topic to light. And it also provides another angle that the American media may catch on to before the Canadian media ever does to figure out what is happening over friendly Canadian skies. Now, just a couple of days ago, Daniel Otis also released a report, 290 pages of almost 500 reports of UAP encounters that included airline pilots, military, police, citizens like you and me, happening over the years. It needed to happen. Look, there is big news with this subject. We all know it's getting buried. It will be buried because it's not as juicy as Ukraine right now versus Russia. It's not as juicy as COVID, even though COVID is winding down everywhere on this planet except my province of British Columbia and maybe California. It is also not as juicy as being woke, which our media now is. And you may disagree with me. You'll be like, how dare you, Dave, say that? Hey, I'm a former member of the mainstream media. I remember when a newsroom used to call a story point and counterpoint when they used to report on stories that actually affected people, and they weren't reporting on the I'm offended crowd on a daily basis. Not at all. They were about getting news out, not opinion. And that's what news is. News sometimes is supposed to hurt people. Not hurt people, hurt, people. All right? The news isn't supposed to be comfortable. It isn't supposed to be woke about safety rooms in universities, about whether or not, we should be killing pipelines, whether or not we should be killing animals for food. All right? It's not about that. The news is about telling stories that are affecting people around your area. That's what it is. It's not about feelings. It is supposed to be cold. It is supposed to be uncomfortable. It is supposed to be for everyone. It is also supposed to be the voice and ears of the population and not segregated groups. That's what it's about. So if the media is smart in Canada, which they are not, especially around UFOs, they will not pick this up. They should. They should be paying attention, because between myself, Victor Vigiani, and Daniel Otis, this story has traction. We messaged on Twitter and via email dozens of media outlets and journalists across Canada to say, hey, Canada just got in the UFO game. We were met with silence. And that's not very comfortable, especially on a topic such as this. Now, look, I understand that there are not very many people passionate about this subject as much as I am, or as much as Victor Vigiani or Daniel Otis. But you know what? UFOs, UAP are a reality that we need to start taking a little bit more seriously, especially in Canada here, being best friends and partners in everything with our beautiful friends in the United States. We have no choice. We need to be able to do this. We need to do it together. And if Canada isn't holding up their end of the bargain, shame on them. But we also need more members of parliament like Larry Maguire, who are going to come on out and talk about this subject and ask those difficult questions on the record, on camera, in Ottawa, Ontario, the nation's capital. The best thing we can hope for now is that Larry Maguire does not go silent, but instead decides to push this subject and this topic further. He has to get it into the House of Commons, and he has to get it into question, period. Otherwise, this subject will fall right on the floor, like so many politicians do each and every day with the topics that they are concerned about. And that is your Dave 101.